All right, welcome to the Krug Show. Raj is in the house from RSF 49ers. You'd swear it's a Tuesday, but it's not. It's a Wednesday. It's a Wednesday. But join us anyway. Demarcus Robinson in the news. We'll talk a little Niners right now. Come aboard. Off and running Wednesday night on the Krug Show, brought to you by Pig and a Pickle, the best barbecue in all of Northern California. Check them out. They're in Emeryville. They're in Corte Madera. They're open 7 days a week from 11 a.m. till 8 p.m. or until they run out, and they do run out. So get there early, get some brisket chili. We are live. Welcome to the Pig and a Pickle Krug Show. As I said, it is 7:50 on the West Coast, 10:50 on the East Coast. And we're here with Raj Melwani from RSF 49ers. If you're watching us live on YouTube, do us a favor, smash the like button, hit subscribe, and make sure you get that notification bell turned on so that you never miss a show. And remember, once the live stream wraps up, you can catch the full replay anywhere you get your podcast, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever your favorite platform or whatever your favorite platform is. Just search The Krug Show, and you'll find us. We got a lot to get to, as always, so let's jump right in. But thanks to everybody who has supported the show. Thanks to everybody supporting The Krug Show. Hit like and subscribe. We're closing in, believe it or not, Raj, on 60,000 subs, which
Wow.
I know for you is not small potatoes.
That's a lot.
But 59,673 subs right now. We're closing in on 60,000. I'd love to get to 60,000 before training camp, but I just wanted to take this time and just thank everybody because you know what? You know, we don't buy subs. We don't even always ask for subs. Sometimes I'll forget to even say, hey, like and subscribe, but please do. Please hit like and subscribe. It helps us grow the channel, and obviously we're really happy with 59,673 real subs. But if you are a regular and you watch the show regularly and you've yet to sub, please do. But Raj is here. It's a Wednesday night, and one of the big stories of the day involves Demarcus Robinson, the Niner wide receiver. And there's not a lot of stories in Niner land today, but this was one of them. And Demarcus Robinson was sentenced to probation in the DUI case stemming from the November 2024 DUI that he had. So he gets a 36-month probationary period. He's fined only $390. He's going to have to complete several programs, including a Mother Against Drunk Driving program. And now we're just kind of waiting on the NFL. I would imagine we're all kind of anticipating there'll be a 3-game suspension potentially looming, but who knows? Maybe it'll be 4 games. Maybe it'll be 2. We don't know. I do expect we're going to get an answer on that probably in the next week to 10 days. But What do you think, Raj? How does Demarcus Robinson and the DUI and the subsequent suspension, how is that going to impact the Niner wide receiver room, a room that's not going to include Debo and won't include Ayuk in September either?
Yeah, no, it's a good question. And first and foremost, $390 fine. I mean, shit, I'll pay his fine for him. He walked away with minimal fines. I know a lot of people that have walked away with a lot more fines on a DUI case. So I mean, that's good for him. He pleaded no contest and he gets the probation. I mean, that's the best of it. He didn't have to do any jail time. So in the grand scheme of things, he kind of got off pretty easily. But the big question is, how many games is he going to miss in the NFL? How many games is he going to be suspended? I think the rumors before all this news circulated today was about 3 games, but we'll wait and see. 3 games, first 3 games of the season, I think would definitely be, ideal. You don't want it to spill too much into the season because the Niners don't have Brandon Ayuk. The Niners don't have Debo. Well, Brandon Ayuk for a while. They don't have Debo. You have Ricky Pearsall, who we talked about this earlier today. He's got a lot of pressure on him. You got Jacob Cowing, who we don't really know if he can be that guy to take a lot of targets. We haven't seen it yet from him. He's young. You got Jauan Jennings, who's going to get a lot of double and triple teams. So this is kind of big. The 49ers, they added Robinson to the team to be that, that bridge, that kind of guy that could kind of be the placeholder to help out this offense, the veteran guy for once Brandon Ayuk's able to come back, then maybe he could take a step back. But the Niners are pretty depleted at wide receiver. Obviously, they have Kittle and he's going to have to take a bigger role. And you hope that Christian McCaffrey's healthy and he could be a pass catcher out the backfield, or maybe Isaac Orendo. Maybe he's going to have to be, catching some passes. But this does have some impact on the beginning of the season. You miss a guy, so now you're going to have to really hope that Ricky Pearsall, who's dealing with the hamstring injury, can come in right away and produce, early in the first few games of the season. So again, we'll see how many games he gets suspended. I think it does have a little bit of an impact at the beginning of the season. You want to start off hot, and if you don't have all your weapons, and if you're, having to rely on guys that we don't know if they can be reliable, it might cost them a game or so. But I'm excited to see what Jacob Cowing can do. Again, it's going to open it up for him. He should get more touches. And Ricky Pearsall, those guys, at the end of the day, if they can live up to their billing, then it's not going to be a big deal. But if they're struggling early on, it could be a big problem for them.
Every year is a little different, and every year your roster looks a little different. I was when Aaron Rodgers won a Super Bowl, the one year that he won, right? He beat Pittsburgh. That year, Green Bay was incredibly deep, and they had on Super Bowl Sunday, I think at that point they had over 20 guys go on season-ending IR, and yet they still wound up winning the Super Bowl. So they were incredibly deep. I would say the 49ers this year, I'm not like there were a lot of people who were like, oh my God, the 49ers are going to be bad. They won 6 games. They need a whole new defense. They need special teams. They're just going to be bad. But I think overall, when I look at their roster, offense, defense, special teams, I think it looks pretty good unless there's a rash of injuries at a couple key spots. They're really not very covered. And this is one of them. Now wide receiver becomes one of them because, if you go into this preseason and you play your 3 games and then get into the regular season and you have Pearsall and Jennings and Jordan Watkins, who you didn't mention, and Jacob Cowing and Junior Bergen, let's say somebody comes of age out of Bergen, Isaiah Nair, Isaiah Hodgins, you might be covered, right? But where things are going to get a little screwy is if the 49ers have 1 or 2 injuries at wide receiver. In addition to not having Debo, in addition to not having Ayuk, if somehow Jauan Jennings and Ricky Pearsall both weren't ready for week 1, and you're not going to have Ayuk, and you're not going to have Debo, and you're not going to have Demarcus Robinson, and now you're going into week 1 with Jordan Watkins, Jacob Cowing, and Junior Bergen, or you know what I mean? Jordan Watkins, Jacob Cowing, and Isaiah. I mean, they basically what we're saying here is that because of the way their depth chart sits at wide receiver, they really can't afford to lose a couple guys. Where in other years, I mean, the Niners have gone, in some years, have showed up with like 15 good defensive linemen, and they'll lose 1 or 2 guys before you really get rolling. And it's like, yeah, but you don't miss them because you got 13 linemen, and you're probably only going to keep 10. So now you got 3 extra guys but you know what I mean? Certain positions this year, they're thin. And like, I think they're deeper on the offensive line, but they're deeper with backups on the offensive line. If they lose their starters, then their offensive line is going to take a step back. And I think wide receiver, because of Ayuk's status and Debo moving on, if they wind up losing a Ricky Pearsall, who's been hurt pretty consistently since he's been here, and a Jauan Jennings, they could be in a world of hurt. So as far as I don't think the 49ers should react and go sign Keenan Allen. I don't think they should react and go sign Amari Cooper. I don't think I would. I would just ride it out with what they got right now and see what receivers shake free at the end of training camp. Who knows? Maybe somebody will shake free that you really like.
There's always people, available.
Yeah, there's always receivers. So to me, even though Demarcus, and by the way, on the positive news, Demarcus Robinson last year with the Rams scored 7 receiving touchdowns. That would have put him second to George Kittle's 8 on the Niners.
Yeah, he was decent last year for the Rams as a third option. So that's what I'm saying. It's not that he's this all-world receiver, but he's a good, solid veteran depth. And I think, again, he was going to come in and kind of be that placeholder, bridge the gap a little bit, help him out until Brandon Ayuk comes back. He missed 3 games. I'm just saying, I'm not like so worried. But I know you mentioned Jordan Watkins. We haven't seen him play in the NFL. We don't know. I know everybody's excited and say he had a great mini camp and everything, but we'll see when the pads come on. Jennings is great, but he's going to get double and triple teams. I know he's a dog, but you need to have other wide receivers. And as much as I love Pearsall, how bad is the hamstring injury? I'm just saying, you hit the nail on the head, Larry, is if there's any injury early on the season, the wide receiver room isn't really that strong to absorb the injuries right there. I mean, I'm excited to see if Cowan, if he gets a lot of carries or touches, that's great. I want to see Cowan get it, but will he make those, touches count? Again, he was very limited last year. And now in the second year, you're going to expect him to be this burgeoning star and stuff. So that's the concern is they do have some holes, and I get it. It's an easy schedule, but I gotta pump the brakes a little bit. I am a little concerned about this roster overall. Again, the easy schedule makes it very digestible to sit there and be very optimistic this year, but you got to take a step back because if this team gets injured like they usually do, you just got to be a little bit more you just got to be a little careful of how you.
Well, I mean, okay, so one thing that I think people should take note of. The last 2 teams, the Niners have statistically the easiest schedule in the league.
Correct.
But the last 2 teams that were in this position and entered the year with statistically the easiest schedule in pro football, the last 2 teams that had this advantage, and it's obviously a huge advantage, it's the easiest strength of schedule in the NFL since 2015. So it's not just the easiest schedule, it's the easiest schedule that anybody has had in a decade. Mm-hmm. But it is worth noting that the last 2 teams that walked into a season with statistically the easiest schedule wound up that season with losing records. So I don't think that's going to be the 49ers' plight because I think they're going to benefit from the easy schedule. I think I would say most teams that wind up with really easy schedules had a rough year the year before, and maybe they're in decline. And that's why they had a losing record even with the easy schedule, because they're a team in decline. I don't know that I would say the 49ers are a team in decline. I just don't believe that. Not with Shanahan at that age, not with Purdy at that age, not with as many talented future Hall of Famers and Pro Bowlers. I mean, I just don't, do I think Colin Cowherd thinks the 49ers window is open and closed and that they're an old team and they're going to be bad.
They got a lot of young players, though.
I really don't see it that way. I don't see them as an old team. I think they're old if you look at John Weeks and Thomas Morstead, and you know what I mean? They're old statistically because they added some old special teamers, but the rank and file of this member of this team is not old. I mean, where's the age on either line of scrimmage? You have Trent, but that's it. I mean, everybody else has probably got, a significant number of years left.
Yeah.
I don't see a lot of age in the meaningful spots on this roster.
Yeah, they got a good set of players in their prime that are in their, in their core players, their key players. Fred Warner, right? He's not old. You're right. George Kittle, he's still relatively toward the end of his prime. You got Chris McCaffrey. He's probably got another good year left in him, maybe 2 if depending on the injuries. But Jauan Jennings, those guys aren't very old per se. Brock Purdy. But, I get what people are saying, some of their stars are aging and stuff. But honestly, this team, if you look at this roster, they've tried to go through the draft the last 2 years. It's a very young team on a lot of the D-line, right? Some of these key players are very young. So, unfortunately, they're kind of untested players. CJ West, we don't know if he's going to be this great star that we all expect him to be. Alfred Collins, second-round pick. He's a young guy, right? There's going to put a lot of pressure on him. So, to me, again, as easy as the schedule is, you have to look at it from a whole grand scheme of things of, this is a young team, and they're used to playing, 12 games in college, 13 games. They're going to have to play 17 games. Can they make it through a full year? Those are going to be concerns and question marks. I know a lot of people are so happy that it's an easy schedule, Larry. You do have to kind of look at this a little objectively and say, okay, there's going to be some young players. Are they going to hit that rookie wall? There's going to be injuries. I hate to say it. There is. It's just going to be injuries. How is this team going to manage if a key player gets hurt? So is the depth going to be good enough? Is Robert Salah going to revamp this defense right away? He had question marks as a coach in New York. And I'm not going to sit here and say we're going to just win 13 games because it's an easy schedule. It's going to be a tough season. I think they can win 10, 11 games if they really get everything together. But there's a lot of question marks coming into the season. You don't win 6 games and then just automatically say, oh, yeah, we're going to go back to 12 wins. It's possible. You can go from worst to first. It is an easy schedule. They have the talent. They have great players, but a lot has to go right. The NFL, there's a lot of luck that goes into this too. So you have to get lucky. You have to avoid injuries. I'm sure the team's very hungry, but at the moment, I'm pumping the brakes on giving this team a 12 to 13 win season because that's what everybody's. It's an easy schedule. It's an easy schedule. Well, teams have us circled, so I'm going to say maybe 10 wins is where the Niners go this year.
It's an interesting time of the year. I mean, Sean McVay never plays his starters in August. Well, Shanahan does. And it's two different thinkings, right? One, Shanahan's mindset is we don't want to be rusty. We want to hit the ground running. We want our guys to be peaking come week 1. McVay's thought process is, hey, you know what? If you play guys in the preseason, potentially you could lose them to injury, and we're going to sit out all of our guys through all 3 of the preseason games because we're going to guarantee, they may be rusty, but they'll be healthy come week 1. What do you think is the better plan? Do you like the plan that Shanahan uses where he plays his guys and rolls the dice? Or do you like, and so, the Niners have started pretty quickly at times. Or do you prefer the McVay plan, which is anybody who's at all meaningful, they don't play in meaningless games, and we'll dust them off week 1, and we'll trade a little rust to make sure all of our money is on the field come week 1. Who's got the better plan?
I like the week 1, because how many times have we seen some silly ass injury in the preseason? You're just like, oh my God. So I don't know. I'm living off the PTSD of all these injuries, and I kind of would like to see them just mail it in the preseason. Let the guys that need to compete for a roster spot. Let those guys prove themselves, because at the end of the day, Niners need to stay healthy. I don't care if Christian McCaffrey's playing meaningless minutes in the preseason. I want to make sure he's playing meaningful minutes when it matters down the stretch. And if that means don't play him in the preseason, then that's fine. So I'm more in tune to say, let's let the starters rest in the preseason. I get it. People want to see the players and, they go to the games, but preseason is practice. It's, it's an exhibition. I want to make sure my guys are ready for week 1 and beyond. Yeah, you might be a little rusty. You might open out the gates a little slow. But the Rams have started slow, and then they peak when it matters. And that's what the Niners need to do, is peak when it matters. And, yeah, it's great to get off to a hot start. I remember in 2019, Niners off to a fiery start, and it helped them get, home field advantage. But at the end of the day, at this point, I feel like it's more important to stay healthy because we've seen it in the NFL. If your best players are hurt in the playoffs, it really doesn't matter. You're going to lose those games. You have to make sure that your best players are available. And unfortunately, you take advantage of those teams that are banged up, and you can win because your key players. It's happened throughout the NFL. I remember back in the day, Niners lost many playoff games when I was growing up because they had key players like, Garrison Hurst, Jerry Rice, or Steve Young. One of those guys would get hurt, and it was done in the playoffs. And it's just the same thing now. If Christian McCaffrey were to get hurt, or Trent Williams, or Nick Bosa in the playoffs, it'd probably be harder to win without those guys.
Let's talk quarterbacks for a minute. It's going to be a very interesting summer for the 49ers because you have Brock Purdy with his brand new contract. There'll be no holdout. And then the question is, how much do you want to play him? How many games do you want to play him in? How many quarters do you want to play him? How many series do you want to play him? The Niners have 4 quarterbacks, but Rourke is hurt, so he's not going to play, right? Isn't Rourke going to go on some kind of NFI list or PUP or something? So he's not going to play. So if I were Shanahan, I think here would be my plan. I'm going to play Brock Purdy in practice. I'll play him in the joint practices, but I want to play him just a little bit. He's a smaller guy. It's a long year. I'm not playing him extensively and subjecting him to hits and all that in the preseason. So that would mean that the entire preseason, now granted it's only 3 games, so it's not that many games, but the 3 games would be just a cup of coffee for Brock, and there is no Rourke. So it's basically an entire 3 games to evaluate Mac Jones versus Tanner Mordecai. And I would make sure Purdy got lots of reps in practice, but I'm not going to subject him to hits from other teams. I'll play him like maybe a series in the first game. I'll play him maybe 2 series in the second game. And then after that, I'll play him like 4 series in the third game. And then that's it, man. I don't want to play him a lot of series. He's not going to play in the second half. He's not playing with a bunch of reserves. And then I'll play Mac Jones a ton, and I'll play Tanner Mordecai a ton. And I think it might be in their best interest to handle it this way. Just little cups of coffee for Purdy, a little bit more each week. But basically just give him the lion's share of the practice reps. But when you get to the games, let's see a lot of Mac Jones and a lot of Tanner Mordecai, and let's have a real competition for that number 2 job. What do you think?
Yeah, no, 4 series is a lot in a preseason game, Larry. I'm not even throwing out there that much.
That might be too many. That was the third game, too.
Yeah, that's a lot. At this point, third game, I don't need Brock out there.
How many series do you want in 3 games? How many will be a good number?
So I agree with you. Let him have the lion's share of the first reps in training. Let him go out there, practice all he wants. But I'm not letting him get touched, because if he gets hurt in preseason, we're absolutely cooked. So Mac Jones, Tanner Mordecai, it's the summer of them. I want to see them go all out. I want to see Brock Purdy one game in the dress rehearsal game, was usually the second game of the preseason. Go out there, maybe play 2 series. That's it. That's all I need from Brock this offseason. That's it. 2 series max. I don't care if the fans
2 series total?
Yeah,
in the entire 3 games?
They don't get to see Brock. It's preseason.
That's fair. I mean, I'm not telling you you're wrong. It seems low. That seems like a really low amount, but as I said, I'm not telling you you're wrong.
I'm not trying to get him hurt, man, because guess what?
No, I hear you.
4 series in a game, they're coming for his neck. Oh, my God.
Well, I mean, that's the thing. I mean, if you lose Brock, it's game over, and I just don't think I would want to do that. All right. So we're kind of in agreement. Very little Brock, a lot of Mordecai, and a lot of Mac Jones.
Oh, baby.
Now, I've made this point a couple times, and if you've heard me make it before, I apologize for repeating myself. And that is that Mac Jones is number 2, and that's the plan. But if they battle to a standstill and they're even, Mac Jones is going to be number 2. And if Mordecai's even slightly better, I still think Mac Jones is going to be number 2. The only way Mac Jones won't be 2 will be if Mordecai just absolutely is way better. Way better.
Makes it.
And if he's way better, I do think Mac Jones is going to get dealt, because I don't think the Niners are going to pay $4.75 million for a third-string quarterback. And I did a video on this the other day. The quarterbacks that could become available in August is a very interesting group of quarterbacks. And if Mac Jones, for whatever reason, loses to Mordecai and they decide to trade Mac Jones, let's just say Mac Jones plays decent, but he loses to Mordecai.
Wow.
I don't know if they're going to keep Mac at 4.75 as QB3. I don't know. I mean, it's not 9 like Lance had, but it's still quite a bit. The average third-string quarterback in the NFL makes like about $1 million.
Oh, wow.
So you're not going to pay somebody close to $5 million to be your third-string quarterback. So if Mordecai beats him out, I think there's a decent chance they trade Mac.
But I mean, he plays with Shanahan, so doesn't his value go a little bit, because this Kyle kind of fixes these quarterbacks, right?
Well, if he plays well. I mean, let's say Mac plays well, but Mordecai plays better.
Yeah. Wow.
If Mac plays like ass, then nobody's going to want him. But if Mac played well, but Mordecai just played better, and the Niners decide to go with Mordecai, here are the quarterbacks that I think potentially could be cut and could be available at the end of August. Tell me if you think of these names. And there's some interesting ones here. Carter Bradley, Gus Bradley's son with the Raiders. If they don't want to pay Mac Jones, they could trade Mac Jones and sign Carter Bradley to be the number 3 quarterback. Wouldn't be the worst thing. I'll tell you the guy that I really like. I like Seth Hennigan, the quarterback who played at Memphis, who is in Jacksonville. Wow. But Jacksonville's got Trevor Lawrence, and they also have a couple decent backups. They're more established as NFL backups than Hennigan. And who knows? Hennigan could be out there. I think Hennigan would be a good quarterback to sign. The Colts have Riley Leonard and Anthony Richardson. Heck, the Colts might be the team that calls wanting Mac Jones to back up Daniel Jones. We'll see. The Jets have Adrian Martinez from Nebraska and Brady Cook from Missouri. One guy who's a free agent who we just saw working out with Kittle and Purdy the other day is C.J. Beathard. I'm not saying Niner fans want more of C.J. Beathard, but we're just talking about a third-string quarterback. Then there's a couple other names. Dorian Thompson-Robinson could get cut by the Eagles. Sam Hartman from Notre Dame could get cut by the Commanders. Austin Reed, Western Kentucky, could get cut by the Bears. Max Brosmer, a lot of people thought he was a good fit for Shanahan. He could get cut by the Vikings. And the Packers have a guy named from Canada, Taylor Elgersma, who's really intriguing quarterback, but he may get cut. They got Jordan Love, they got Sean Clifford, they got Malik Willis. I mean, he may get cut.
I mean,
so
possible.
What do you think? If Mac plays well but loses to Mordecai, would you rather have Mac as your third-string quarterback at 4.75 mil, or do you think in that scenario they trade Mac for a seventh-round pick and go sign one of these waiver wire guys to be the third-string quarterback? I mean, watching C.J. Beathard throw it around with Purdy and Kittle makes me think that, you know what? If it comes down to it, if Mordecai beats out Mac Jones, I don't know, man. I might rather have C.J. Beathard as my third-string quarterback than Mac Jones at 4.75 mil.
The Lionheart, C.J. Beathard. Here's the thing. Beathard.
I don't love C.J. Beathard. Don't get me wrong, but I'm just saying
I know.
He's buddies with those guys.
Well, he's been buddies with George Kittle since college. They're going to work out when they're 90 years old throwing. Oh, remember when we were on the Niners to get – listen, C.J. Beathard's not getting signed in the Niners because he's working out with George. That's just his butt. That's like his neighbor now. They're going to be tossing pigskins for years, man. That's just – I wouldn't look into that. Any other of those guys, I mean, it is what it is. Do
you like any of those names?
I don't like any single one of those guys, okay?
You don't like Anthony Richardson? You don't think that would be interesting?
I hate that guy. Now, this is what I think.
All right,
Mac Jones, there's no way Mac Jones gets cut from Kyle. This man has been searching for Mac Jones for years. Since he had his chance a couple years back, he's not going to blow this chance. And if Tanner Mordecai plays fantastic, good for Tanner Mordecai. I can't see him in Kyle Shanahan's eye playing better than him. If Tanner Mordecai goes crazy, then maybe trade Tanner Mordecai. Or, hey, guess what? You got a expensive third-string quarterback. There's no way Mac Jones is not QB2. And you need to make sure you have a good backup quarterback. Because we've seen this team with injuries, and I'm not saying Brock's going to get hurt, and I hope he doesn't, but you just never know what's going to happen. I mean, maybe he misses a game or something. You need to have a decent backup. And I think Kyle Shanahan loves Mac Jones so much that he prefers Mac Jones as his backup quarterback. As good as Tanner Mordecai might play this offseason, I think he's made up his mind already. Mac Jones is QB2. There's no way I see this team without Mac Jones.
You don't think Mac Jones, if he loses out to Tanner Mordecai for the number 2 job?
To Mac Jones. He's not losing to Mordecai.
But he easily could. Why? Because Mordecai's been in the offense for a whole extra year.
The offense is basically Mac Jones. Couple years ago,
he's faster than Mac Jones. He's got a better arm than Mac Jones. I'm telling you, man. I just watched these guys on the practice field together 3 weeks ago, and there's no doubt in my mind that Tanner Mordecai was better in those practices than Mac Jones.
Okay,
now it's early, but here's my question: if Mac Jones isn't the number 2 guy, are you saying give him the job even if he doesn't earn it? Because if he's not the number 2 guy, then I think you got to give the job to Mordecai. And if Mordecai outplays him, I think you got to give him the job. And if he does outplay him, I don't think Mac Jones is gonna stay here. I don't think even though Mac Jones wants to play for Shanahan, I don't think he will stay here if he's the number 3 guy. I think he'll want to go somewhere else. Not just a guess.
I mean, I agree with that, but there's no way I see Mordecai beating Mac Jones. I think it's already decided. Mac Jones.
Well, I mean, Mordecai is gonna. It's like in the '70s when you fought Muhammad Ali. there was nobody who fought Ali to a draw who got the decision. If you want to, in the 70s in the heavyweight division, if you wanted to be the champ, you had to beat the champ. And if you fought the champ valiantly, but it was a draw, he got it. You didn't. And I think the same thing's going to happen here. Mac Jones will not lose to Tanner Mordecai if he outplays him, or if it's even, or even if Mordecai is slightly better. The only way Mordecai is going to beat Mac Jones is if Mordecai is consistently better in practice, the games, everything.
He's got to go on a generational run, dude. He's got to go on a generational.
He's gonna have to play better than Mac Jones. But as I said, he's much faster. He's got a stronger arm, and he's been in this offense longer. And to that last one is actually kind of a key element. Why? Look at Matt Ryan. Year one under Shanahan, when Shanahan was the OC in Atlanta, he was pretty marginal. Year two, he won the MVP of the league. Year one, Jimmy Garoppolo under Shanahan, he was all right. Year two, he was really, really good. Brock Purdy was good as a rookie, but he was way better after a year in this offense. So it's a very complicated offense. I think it's reasonable to think that Mac Jones may struggle with it. We'll see. We'll see. To me, the biggest issue with the Niners, you say, what's the biggest issue? The biggest issue, and we talked about this earlier tonight on KMBR, is how Shanahan and Bobby T split up the running back touches. You know, I know they've got CMC, and it's very chic to be like, oh, CMC does whatever CMC wants. And you know, Bobby T told me, hey, you know, I let CMC be CMC. I let Christian be Christian. But you know what? That's a little too much now, because the bottom line is you got to a Super Bowl, but you got there and Christian wasn't 100% and he fumbled and he wasn't the Christian that you had much of the year. So to me, the goal for the year has got to be get to the Super Bowl with a healthy Christian McCaffrey. Yeah, if you get to the Super Bowl with a healthy Christian McCaffrey, you got a shot. You got a real shot. If you get there and he's not healthy, I don't think you got much of a shot. So you also have Garendo, who's clearly getting better. And I've heard some people suggest that they may trade Garendo. I don't see that happening. But Isaac Garendo, you know, I called him a fullback last year because he has no running back instincts. And here we are a year later, and he still doesn't really have good running back instincts. But he's so fast, so big, and he can catch the ball out of the backfield incredibly well. And I just think that this year, if this is CMC left, CMC right all year long, if it's the 95-5 split that we've seen in the past, CMC and Garendo, they're cooked. It's got to be more like 75-25 or 60-30. Or, you know, 65-35, something like that, 60-40. It's got to be more closer to a 50-50 split. Garendo is younger. He's healthier. He actually averaged more yards per carry last year than CMC and more yards per reception. So Garendo is raw, but he's got to be, to me, they're not going anywhere if Garendo's not a huge part of what they do.
Yeah, I agree. They got to share the load. You got to take some touches off of CMC. You can't just throw him up the butt. You can't do a halfback dive. You can't just do, for the sake of putting the ball in CMC's hand, just for him to create. Can't do it anymore because he's coming off of a massive bilateral Achilles tendonitis. It's like that was bad. The fact that he was able to play last year was wow. I couldn't believe it. And then, you know, the PCL injury, it sucked. So you got to really limit those types of carries where it's just meaningless carries. I hate that. Like halfback dive is just a meaningless carry. You know, you got to give Garendo some touches. You got 4 running backs on this roster potentially that can make this roster. So use your other guys. They're younger. They have a lot more, you know, juice in their legs. And Garendo, he's a hell of a pass catcher, man. Let him use that ability on this offense because you're going to be missing Debo. You need a guy that can kind of play that wide back role that could come out of the backfield and catch. And I know Christian McCaffrey can do it, but you don't need to do it every single time. And you kind of have to save CMC from himself. Because like you said, Bobby T's like, oh, we just want to be CMC, be himself. If you let CMC be CMC, he's gonna want the ball every single down he's in. He wants the ball. He's a gamer. Like, I got respect for CMC. He's a dog. He wants to be that guy, but you kind of need to save himself from himself and let some of those other guys take some carries away from him. Save his legs. Because if CMC is not there week 16, 17, 18, and he's hurt, it doesn't matter, because now you're going to put all that stress on Garendo, and then he's going to be at the point where he's getting, stuffed 8 men in the box and stuff like that. So you got to really divvy up the carries, and it's not just Garendo. They got a lot of other guys. Utilize those guys, split the carries. In the NFL, a lot of teams utilize multiple running backs. It's just the way the wave of the game is now. It's not just one guy pounding the rock for 30 carries. Back when LaDainian Tomlinson and Priest Holmes were doing it, the game has changed. You need a longevity. You need to get these guys healthy enough to play the season. So, yeah.
I mean, look at it this way in the NFL. It's like, is it hard to pass? It's really hard to pass when you're behind by 21 points and the other team knows you can't run anymore, right? It's really hard to pass. Yeah. But other times it's easy to pass. If you pass when teams think you're going to run, it's kind of easy to pass. Is it hard to run? Well, it's not hard to run if you run on first down when nobody knows if you're going to run or pass. It's really hard to run when you're up 12 points with 7 minutes left in the fourth quarter and everybody knows you're going to run because you're trying to run out the clock. Yeah. And that's where the Niners have to find somebody else. Right. They have to find a finishing back that's not named CMC. When they're going to be up, I mean, you saw the schedule. The schedule's got some real dogs on it. There's going to be some games where the 49ers are up more than 7 points, and they're going to get the ball back with like 6 minutes left. And guess what? Whoever gets the ball at running back is going to get smoked. Why? Because the other team knows the Niners are going to try to run for a first down, keep the clock moving, and so teams are going to sell out to stop the run. You got to make sure that CMC is not taking all those hits every week. Those are the meaningless runs that I want to avoid. Finish the game with somebody else. Yeah. Somebody else. You need to pick up a first down. Run Jordan James. Run Corey Kiner. Run Izzy Abanaconda. Run Juice. Run Garendo. Run anybody. Do end arounds to your receivers. But take. I would love to see them run CMC less and throw it to him more.
Yeah. Use him as a receiver because he's so good as a receiver. And like we said, you're going to have to replace that wide back role. So might as well utilize Christian McCaffrey as a receiver. You get 10 yards a pop instead of 2 yards on the dive. It makes more sense. And again, when you're up, you need to get a little bit more creative because I feel like that's been the downfall of the Niners with Shanahan is he does get a little predictable. He kind of gets too conservative. That's always been the knock on him is, he's just not so dynamic when it matters. It's like, oh, okay, he's just going to do these silly plays and then you stop him. And then, here comes the other team. They're going to erase the deficit. How many times did last year it was close games and then they got to the point where the Niners were predictable and they got stopped and then the other team stormed back and then special teams couldn't save the day. And, it was all those issues. And again, I know we have an easy schedule this year, but there's going to be a lot of close games and the Niners have to find a way to close them out. And you got to be a little bit you got to be a little less predictable. You got to be a little bit more aggressive. And if you just know that if the teams know you're just going to give CMC the ball all the time, it'd be a little easy to stop them, right? So get the ball to other people. Give Kittle the ball more. Hell, shit. I mean, he's amazing. Dial his number.
I mean, look at it this way. You're trying to spread the punishment around because these guys get punished physically when they touch the ball. So you're going to spread the ball around, spread the opportunity around, but also spread that punishment around. Jacob Gordon says, I like spelling CMC as a running back by using his receiving abilities. Yeah, that's just what I said. Yeah. And I think that's absolutely how I'd save him. Niner Gang says, Larry, did you see Eric Armstead's statement about how Brock changed the offense? If so, what are your thoughts? I think what you're referring to, Niner Gang, was that Armstead said that some of the defensive players or some of the offensive players, some of the offensive receivers. I think this is what he said, that the receivers, felt like Brock will throw it to them even if it's not designed for them. Like the play might be designed to go to Ayuk, but he'll still throw it to JJ. He'll still throw it to Cowing. He'll still throw it to Pearsall. And I thought that was Armstead's statement, that he basically said that once the receivers realized that, Brock would throw it to you even if you're the third or fourth guy on the play, that they started running their backside routes harder, which made the offense more dynamic across the board. I thought that's were the comments that were attributed to him. Am I guessing right on that, or did Armstead say something different? Did you see that? Did you see what Armstead said at all?
I think that's what he's alluding to, but I'll see if Niner Gang can.
Yeah, I thought that's what he said. Okay, another one that I got to get your thoughts on. This we talked about this a little bit on KMBR. Terry McLaurin is out there and may get dealt, and some people are saying the Niners should go get him. And then there's other people out there. I mean, there's Gabe Davis, there's Amari Cooper, there's Keenan Allen, there's a slew of receivers. Then there's also defensive linemen, like Trey Hendrickson, who's in Cincinnati, and they're saying that he wants out, and they're sounding like they may be willing to move him. I don't think the 49ers ought to go for a receiver or a corner or a running back or, another quarterback. I don't know that I would go for any position other than a defensive lineman that could heat up the quarterback and make the rest of the defense better. I'm not interested in McLaurin. I'm not interested in veteran, older Amari Cooper, older Keenan Allen. I'd rather take my chances with the young guys on their roster or at the cut down with younger guys cut by other teams. But Trey Hendrickson is a unique animal. He's got a great motor. He's only 30. He's coming off a year where he had 17.5 sacks. And if you didn't like that, he had 17.5 sacks the year before that. This guy's had 35 sacks the last 2 years. And, it reminds me a little bit of where the Rams were with McVay and Les Snead. They got together. They wanted to win the Super Bowl. They tried to draft their way. Then they started missing in the draft. And then they kind of gave up on it and said, screw it. We'll trade some of these picks for guys like Stafford and Ramsey, and we'll bring in guys that are ready to roll right now. And they got them over the top, and they won a Super Bowl. I kind of think that Lynch and Shanahan also are in that same spot where they've built through the draft. They've done it the right way. They've taken their time. But now they're inside their Super Bowl window, and they've had some misses at the top of the draft, and those misses have hurt their chances of finishing the deal. So I would do what Snead did and what McVay did, which is, if I could get a Trey Hendrickson for a second and a third round pick in the next couple drafts, and I got $45 million of cap room, I'm going to roll over some of it for Purdy, but you know what? How about spend some of that on Trey Hendrickson? I think Hendrickson, because of the motor, the position he plays, Mikael Williams can play inside on pass rushing downs. I know they got Bryce Huff. I think of him as more of a pass rush specialist. To me, Hendrickson is the one guy that if I could get him for a 26-2 and a 27-3, I would make the cap room and squeeze him in. I think you put Hendrickson opposite Bosa, and now you're going to heat up opposing quarterbacks. I mean, Patrick Mahomes has lost 2 Super Bowls, but neither have been to the Niners. Why? Because it was Tampa and Philly whose defensive lines, put pressure on Mahomes. The Niners didn't put enough. And I just kind of feel like if the Niners are getting over the top here, they're going to probably have to go through either Allen, Burrow, Jackson, or Mahomes. And there's just no way they're going to be able to win on Super Bowl Sunday against one of these epic quarterbacks unless they dial up heat. And Hendrickson represents that. So I don't want to extend for very many people at this point. In fact, almost nobody. But if we get to August and Trey Hendrickson's still not signed, what do you think of offering them a 2 and a 3 and see if you can add Hendrickson to Bosa and see if that can get you over the top? What do you think?
I mean, yeah, in theory, that's fantastic. Everybody would be going crazy if they got Hendrickson and Bosa, but I just think he's
But
going
you
to be
got to
even more.
pay him, and you got to trade the picks.
That's what I'm saying. You got a lot of the way. I don't think they're where the Rams were a couple years back. I think the Niners have showed us this year that they're taking a little step back from spending all that cash and blowing all that money and just getting anybody. Which I mean, Hendrickson I think could work on this team. Him and Bosa would be fantastic. But they've made some big signings and they haven't always worked out. Right? Hargrave was a prime example. They've spent some money over the last couple of years and it didn't get them a Super Bowl. And I get it. They lost to the Chiefs, both those Super Bowls. And now we can sit here and talk about the Chiefs holding the 49ers a little bit and getting away with it, but that's another story for another day. I do think Hendrickson would be great, but I just don't think they're right now in that mold of, we just need to go get one guy. And he's going to put us over the top. I think they're really trying to focus through the draft. Now, I know the Rams a couple years back, they said F them picks, and they went crazy. They were in a different position than the Niners. And I think the Niners are trying to scale back because they have a lot of players that they've paid a lot of money for, right? Warner and Bosa and Kittle and blah, 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 blah. They just paid their quarterback. I think they're trying to get young and shed some money over the next year or two, maybe. They didn't really go crazy in free agency this year. They addressed special teams, but I don't think that's where the Niners are this year. I do think Terry McLaurin would be fantastic. I disagree with you on that. You go get Terry McLaurin. I mean, God, this offense, they need a receiver. I know a lot of people are banking on Pearsall. We talked about it earlier in the show, and Jennings and Cowing. You get Terry McLaurin. He's a bona fide superstar. He's a great receiver, man. He's got 2 more years left in his prime. He'd be fantastic. We don't know what the heck we're going to get out of Brandon Ayuk right now, man. I swear. I don't know. I don't know if I'm a little optimistic about this year. So yeah,
I hear you about McLaurin, but I don't know, man. Don't the Niners haven't the Niners gone high priced receiver enough?
They've done it many times. I think that would scare them away. But he's different. Terry McLaurin's a very humble guy. He's usually not diva like these. How fans are labeling a lot of the receivers. He's been pretty about his business. But I get why he wants his money now. But at the same time, I don't think the Niners are in the market to do any of those big things. I think when midseason comes, when it's like the trade deadline, and they kind of see where they're stacking up, if they feel like we can go on a run here, maybe we can add a little bit to our roster. That's what they're kind of waiting for. What do they need once it's the middle of the season and it's the trade deadline? That's when I think they'll kind of assess the team and say, okay, we need to add somebody. They've done it many times, right? Emmanuel Sanders, Christian McCaffrey, midseason move, boom, here we go. Let's add to the team. I feel like that's where the Niners are looking to maybe add. They need to see what this collection of guys they have. They just added Saleh back as defense coordinator. They got a lot of young players on this defense, and also on the offense. They got a lot of young guys. They need to see where these guys go and how they can kind of manage through the season with these young guys, see what they have, and build from there. Because we don't even know what this team's going to look like. On paper, yes, it looks like an easy schedule, but there's no such thing as easy victory or easy game in the NFL there. So I hate that the fact that the Niners got this easy schedule. Everybody's using that this year, and I keep mentioning because it's not an easy. No, there's no such thing as an easy game in the NFL, Larry. So
let's go. But let's talk about bust outs and sleeper. Let's talk about guys who you think are either teams or players that you think are gonna bust out this year.
On the Niners or just in general?
Just in general. It doesn't have to be the Niners. It could be anybody. I'll say this. I'm looking at a list on ESPN of sleeper players, and they have Ricky Pearsall and Jauan Jennings listed at receiver, and they have Jauan Jennings listed twice at receiver. So there's a couple people that think that Jennings and Pearsall are bust out candidates. I find that very, very interesting. Those are the only Niners, by the way. Oh, and Jordan Mason is listed as a running back potential bust out.
He could be busting out.
I'll say this: the guy that I think is going to have the bust out year that we're going to be talking about, I think Michael Penix with Atlanta. Yeah. I really believe in Michael Penix. He's got a fantastic arm. I think he's going to be a terrific player. I think we got a little glimpse of it last year, but I think Michael Penix is going to have a great year with the Falcons.
You going to beat the Niners?
Maybe. He's a really good player.
Not an easy game. People look at that game and say, "Oh, we'll beat the Falcons. They got Michael Penix." Michael Penix might beat the Niners. I'm just saying it's gonna be a harder schedule than people think. Because if you look at this roster, the schedule, we play the Carolina Panthers. Yeah, we play the Falcons. People don't think they're good teams. Both of those teams have really improved. Panthers, I think, are going to be a lot better. I think we'll beat the Panthers, but I'm going to say that might be a heck of a game. A lot closer than many people think. But we'll see. That's way down the line. But
Do you think
breakout star,
you think the Niners are going to lose to Carolina?
I don't think they're going to lose. I said they're going to win, but I think it's going to be closer than people. That's what I'm saying.
Okay.
Like Carolina's got a guy that I think could break out, Xavier Legette. This guy could be a good breakout candidate. Another receiver that I'd say is Marvin Harrison Jr. Last year, he didn't really get on the same page with Kyler Murray, but I think Marvin Harrison Jr. is going to be fantastic this year. So we'll see.
Who do you see okay, so I see one guy that one team that I'm really cool on this year is Detroit. Detroit lost 2 games last year, and then they lost in the playoffs. Yeah. But they lost Ben Johnson, and they lost Aaron Glenn, and they lost Frank Ragnow, and they're replacing him at center with a rookie. And you have an immobile quarterback, and their backup quarterback's Hendon Hooker, and their third-string quarterback's Kyle Allen. I like Detroit. I like Detroit this year to fall on their face. I think they had a very bad draft. I think Goff not behind Ragnow is going to get A-gap pressure. I think he's going to get knocked out. I think they're going to wind up, because they can't protect him. I think they're going to wind up having to use Hendon Hooker, and I think they're going to suck. I think Detroit is going to have a rough year. I really do.
I think they're going to be one of those teams where they fall from grace. I think they'll still be competitive in that division, and they, this really is going to show if Dan Campbell is a good coach now, because he lost both of his coordinators, his defensive coordinator and offensive coordinator. As you mentioned, their draft was bad. I just don't think the Detroit improved this offseason. I've been saying that a lot. Like, Detroit's a team that I think is going to kind of take a step down. I agree with that. And then another team that I feel is going to take a step down.
Yeah, who else?
Is going to be who's that team? I think Green Bay. I just for whatever reason, I'm not sold on Jordan Love. I haven't been. I don't know. I just feel like they're going to take a step back this year. I feel like Chicago is going to be trying to rise up in that division. I don't know if Caleb's going to take that leap with Ben Johnson, but I really feel that Minnesota still, that defense is so good that it's going to give everybody fits. And it's all going to be determined on if J.J. McCarthy can be able to win games with them. But that defense is going to keep them in a lot of games. So that division's wide open, man. It's going to be interesting.
I think this is going to be a disappointing division this year. I really do.
You think so?
I agree with you, by the way, on Green Bay. The one thing about Green Bay, and I didn't realize this until I started reading a little bit more about Green Bay in this offseason, they added Matthew Golden, and he walks into the receiver room, and it's a really young room with really talented guys. Jaden Reed, Romeo Doubs, Christian Watson, Dontavion Wicks. I mean, they got guys, Bo Melton. They've had guys who have done well there. But there's like, who's going to be the guy? And like the pack, they haven't drafted a receiver in the first round in a long time. Matthew Golden, they badly want to be the guy, but Jaden Reed wants to be the guy, but Romeo Doubs wants to be the guy, but Dontavion Wicks wants to be the guy. Savion Williams. I mean, I think they're going to, first of all, I think there's bad vibes already between the head coach and the quarterback. Nice. I think Green Bay is going to have a little bit of an implosion with their wide receivers. They so badly wanted to get a number one receiver, but they drafted a guy in Golden who's kind of raw, and rookie receivers often struggle. And the odds that he's going to be better day one than Jaden Reed and Romeo Doubs are probably not that good. But they're going to play him right away because he's our first-round draft choice and relatively high one at that. So I think the vibes in Green Bay could be really questionable. I think the injury situation in Detroit could be questionable. I think J.J. McCarthy is going to find out that what Sam Darnold did for them last year was a little bit more difficult than he thinks.
Yeah.
And I think there's a chance that Chicago is going to really fall on their face because, all this talk about Ben Johnson and how great Ben Johnson's going to be. But, I mean, Caleb Williams had 68 sacks last year. Yeah, he has a new center. He has a new left guard. He has a new right guard. They have a totally new interior offensive line, and they have a quarterback who holds the ball too long, doesn't see it, and was sacked 68 times last year.
Yeah.
I'll say this. I think Chicago is going to implode. I think Chicago, Detroit, Green Bay, Minnesota, I think that entire division, which looked so awesome last year, I think that division is going to take a collective step back. I really do.
I can see it. Again, there's all the question marks you raised, and that's why I said with Chicago, everybody's saying they're trending up. You don't know. Is a rookie coach Ben Johnson good enough to make Caleb great? I don't know. That's the big question. If Caleb turns up and him and Ben Johnson are a fantastic duo, then it's like, oh wow, okay, here we go. But there's a lot riding on that duo. So we'll see. I don't know. I don't know if I see it in Caleb, but
do you have a sleeper team that you like? I'll say this. I think there's a chance this year could be the year of the quarterback blow up. And what I mean by that is like, okay, so if you look at these teams, New York Giants, Joe Shane and Brian Daboll, those guys are fired at the end of the year if they don't either win or Jackson Dart doesn't really look great. So Russell Wilson, Jameis Winston, I think there's going to be tremendous pressure on them to play Jackson Dart early. And then if he plays well, they save their jobs. But if he doesn't play at all, they're probably both fired. So I think that Russell Wilson, Jameis Winston, Jackson Dart quarterback room in New York with the media and everything, I think that's going to be a circus.
That's going to be
I think they're a circus. That's how I see. I think Dallas is bad. I don't like the running backs Dallas added. They have Dak Prescott, Joe Milton. But as far as quarterback rooms blowing up, I think it's possible the Giants' quarterback room blows up. It's possible Minnesota's quarterback room blows up because J.J. McCarthy's got Sam Howell sitting right there. I think Seattle starts the year with Darnold, but ends the year going Milrose, the guy.
Wow.
So I really think Seattle's room blows up. I think Pittsburgh's room blows up. You got rid of Fields. You got rid of Fields and Russell for Aaron Rodgers. They won 10 games last year. That means if it's not he didn't even go to the offseason program. If they don't win 11 games, I mean that there's going to be tremendous pressure there. You don't have DK Metcalf. You have 3 young offensive linemen. Rodgers on a team with young offensive linemen without great receivers without great ball skill receivers. I don't know, man. I think Pittsburgh, Seattle, Minnesota, the Giants, the Bears, all could blow up. The Jets with Fields, the Browns, the Colts. I mean, even Tampa. If Baker Mayfield goes out, Tampa's cooked. Their backup quarterback's Kyle Trask.
Yeah, and you know what sucks? Tristan Wirfs is out for early portion of the season. He got surgery, so that's gonna be tough on Baker first few games because I mean he relies on Tristan Wirfs a lot. Baker's great, but he needs that O line because without Tristan Wirfs, he might be getting.
Give me your surprise team.
Yeah,
so
I told you
Carolina
is my surprise team in the NFC.
Carolina.
Yeah, I think they're a much improved team. I believe in Bryce Young, man. I believe in BY. I believe in that team. I think they made some good improvements. I don't know. I saw Bryce Young last year. He found his joy, baby, and I think that's what's going to help him. That division is so bad. You got the Saints are terrible, right? Tampa Bay, we just said there's if Tristan Wirfs is not there and they get off to a slow start, you never know. Falcons, I think, could be a good team, but again, there's still question marks on that team. I think Bryce Young is going to have that team competing. That division is wide open. Tampa Bay, Carolina, New Orleans, Atlanta. It's always a wide open division. And I feel like if Carolina could get off to a roll early on, it might be a surprise team. And again, it all really comes down to quarterback play. And Bryce Young, last half of the season, was on a damn heater, man. That guy was amazing. So.
My NFC sleeper teams would be I'm definitely going with Atlanta. But I also kind of think Arizona. They added an awful lot to their defense. Yeah. Kyler Murray is I think a really good young quarterback. I like Arizona. How about AFC wise? Do you have a surprise AFC team?
Yeah, AFC's stacked, man. That division. I think if Drake May can take that leap this year, I really think the Patriots are going to be a good team. I don't know if they'll make the playoffs, but I think they could be a much improved team. and they're going to give team fit. Like they'll be a competitive team, and teams are going to hate to play the Patriots, and it's going to be a hard fought win to beat the Patriots.
I love that. I think you're totally right. I love the Patriots this year. I'll give you another one. I think Cam Ward in Tennessee are going to be pretty good. I'm a big Cam Ward fan. I really believe in Cam Ward. I really believe that he's a good player. I think he's got a lot to learn, but they've improved their offensive line. He's got some real receivers there. I mean, Van Jefferson, Calvin Ridley, Tyler Lockett, Xavier Restrepo from Miami, Alec Ayamanor from Stanford, Treylon Burks. I mean, he's got some receivers. It's not horrible. They added Zeitler at guard, who's kind of a tough guy. They've got Spears and Pollard running the rock. They drafted Khalil Mullings. I don't know. I don't feel super confident.
You know what?
I'm not super confident in them, but I kind of like Cam Ward. I would not be surprised if Cam Ward.
You know what? That's not a bad take. Now that I think about it, Larry, it's pretty easy to be. Colts. I don't believe in the Colts. I don't believe in them. Jaguars. They could be good, but they got a rookie quarterback. Liam Cohen. Or rookie head coach. Is he going to be good enough to elevate Trevor Lawrence? I don't know. That team's kind of middle of the road for me. I feel like other than that, there's really no threat in that division. And then who's the other team? You got Tennessee, Indianapolis, Jacksonville, and I said Jacksonville. There's one more team. It's can't think
Tennessee,
of them. Houston. Oh yeah, Houston's good, but they struggled last year. Can CJ Stroud kind of come back to where he was in that rookie season? Second year was a little bit of a sophomore slump, but also he set the ceiling very high in his rookie year. Can he get back to that mode? I still think, Tennessee could probably compete in that.
Watch Tennessee. Callahan's a good head coach. Their special teams coach is John Fossil, who's a very good special teams coach. I like Tennessee. I don't love them, but I like them. And I totally am with you on New England. I think New England is definitely going to get off the deck, and they are going to show that they're a real football team. I mean, look what they've added. They have Stephon Diggs and Mac Hollins and Pop Douglas at wide receiver. They also drafted Kyle Williams from Wazoo in the third round. They still have Keyshawn Butte. Efton Chisholm, the Eastern Washington kid, has looked fantastic in the mini camps, and he's got great ball skills. Then they drafted Will Campbell, so they got the left tackle. They signed Garrett Bradbury. They signed Morgan Moses. So they got 3/5 of a brand new offensive line that's improved. You got Drake May, who I think is a pretty good young quarterback. You got a good quarterback room. You got Dobbs backing him up. You got the rookie Ben Woolridge. And then at running back, look at that team. They got Ramondre Stevenson, Travion Henderson, Antonio Gibson, Lan Larison from UC Davis is not bad. So they're not bad. They're not bad. Obviously, Vrabel's their coach. Yeah, defensive line has Barmore, Milton Williams was signed, Harold Landry was signed. They have Keon White. They signed Robert Spillane away from the Raiders. He's been good. Carlton Davis is their corner. They got some decent safeties. Christian Gonzalez, Jabril Peppers, Kyle Duggar. I got Marcus Jones. I like the secondary of the Patriots.
They compete in that AFC East. I think they're
not bad.
I don't believe in the Dolphins, the Jets. We don't know if they're gonna. Aaron Glenn. I don't know if I believe him in as a head coach. So I feel like the Patriots can really make some noise in that division. Obviously, the Bills are going to win that division, but don't sleep on the Patriots.
Two last supers, and we're bolting for the door. MSQ says Philly and Tampa Bay's D-lines helped in beating Kansas City, but you have to remember KC's O-line was also banged up in both Super Bowls, especially at their offensive tackle spots. Thoughts? Well, they weren't in the second game against Philly. They just got beat. But in the first game, you're right. They didn't have Mitchell Schwartz. They didn't have their other starting tackle. That's what happens when you don't have your starting tackles. It's an equalizer. And the Niners, unfortunately, didn't get the Chiefs without their good tackles, and then the Niners had a huge advantage with their pass rushers against Kansas City's tackles. And Kansas City's tackles bear hugged Bosa and the Niner defensive ends and never got called. So I know that sounds like sour grapes, but it's fact. It actually happened. So but MSQ duly noted, and we got this one from Anthony Catania. And Anthony is one of our sponsors as well. We should tell you, go check out Sharp Corner Sports Cards and Collectibles. They're at 205 Cypress Avenue in Pacific Grove, California on the Monterey Peninsula. And Anthony is at 831-521-5264, and he's a great follow on IG at Sharp Corners 831 on the gram. He says, another great show. See you guys at training camp. That's right. We will see you at training camp, Anthony. Fired up for training camp. It's going to be great. Training camp is always a good time. Raj, I'll give you the final word. We got over almost 1,100 people watching, even on a July 9th stream where there wasn't a lot going on today. It kind of shows how popular you are, my man. We'll give you the final. We'll give you the final line before we bolt for the door.
Appreciate you, Larry. Thanks for having me on. And training camp in a couple weeks. I'm excited. I haven't really even been posting any news. I can't wait to finally get back and just start posting because I've been out of the loop the last couple of weeks. So good to have me on. Good to be here. 1,000 people. They're all here to see you, Larry. Love you. Take care. Have a great night.
Now, before we get out of here, you always are decked out with some Niner gear and garb. What are we looking at? I like that hat and I like that T-shirt. Is that a Rice?
Yeah, Jerry Rice, the greatest, the GOAT, little Jerry Rice shirt. Same guy that I always get my shirts from, right? The guy you got your Dre Greenlaw shirt from last year.
Yes, I love it. It's one of my prized.
Jerry Rice one last year. And then we talked about this hat last year, LVLN, hat of the year from last year, Niners. He's got a new one coming out, but this was his hat from last year. So
I love it. I love it. By the way, one receiver to look for who I think is probably going to get cut, and he might not be a bad ad for the Niners at the cut down, Jerry's kid. Brendan, he's with the Chargers. He wants to do his own route. So I don't know if he wants to be a Niner, but you know what? I think I wouldn't mind having Jerry's kid. I think Jerry's kid's got some talent, man. I really do. I really believe in Jerry's kid.
He's not bad.
I don't know if he wants to be called Jerry's kid.
I don't think he would.
For all kinds of reasons.
Can you imagine he's at the press conference? Hey, Jerry's kid. Can you call me Jerry's kid? I'm out.
All right, that's going to do it for us. Thanks to Raj. Thanks to all of you. Have a great night. Go Niners. Camp will be here before long. Check me out tomorrow night at 6 o'clock for Niners Nightly on KMBR. Until then, peace.
Yeah, never met a man I've been scared of.